Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Quarantine Kitchen. Today we're going to be working on pistou and green herb oil. These are both great ways to use and preserve extra herbs or greens from vegetables that you might have lying around. The first recipe we'll be making today is carrot top pistou. Carrot tops are a great ingredient to use in pistou because they're often abundant in springtime, and they also have a great taste without tasting too vegetal or grassy. You can use a wide variety of vegetable greens to make pistou, or just use traditional herbs like parsley, cilantro, and mint. Today I'll be making a super simple version that is mostly just green and fresh tasting, but has a little bit of kick from the garlic and red pepper flake. Start by removing your parsley and your carrot tops from the stems. Make sure to rinse these and clean them very well, because the carrot tops especially can be very sandy. Next, we'll chop up our shallot and slice up our garlic and put it aside for later. Today I sliced up 2 cloves of garlic, but I didn't end up using both of them. Because we won't be cooking the garlic, we need to be very careful of how much we put in. Garlic is delicious, but can be very pungent and overpowering when applied too heavily. Next, we'll start by placing all of our parsley and carrot tops into our food processor. We'll be pressing them down towards the blade so that it can really start to chop them. Then we'll add about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. The amount of olive oil you put in will determine the consistency of your pistou. Depending on how you want it, your final product can either be super saucy or almost like a paste, depending on how much olive oil you use. Next, we'll put in about 1/8 teaspoon of salt, really just to get things going and pull the liquid out of the herbs. Every so often, stop your food processor and scrape down the sides. As it continues to blend, I'm going to continue to add olive oil to it bit by bit and checking the consistency frequently. I'll also start to season with a little bit of red wine vinegar as I go from here. When my herbs and carrot tops start to become finely chopped, I'll start to add my shallots and garlic, as well as about a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Again, be careful to start with only a little bit of garlic and red pepper flakes. Now that most of my ingredients are in the food processor, I'll keep adding oil until it really becomes the consistency I'd like. And I'll also start to season with a little bit more salt, some black pepper, and some red wine vinegar. From here, continue to taste and season until you have a bright, green, fresh, and pesto-like sauce. Pistou is great on top of grilled meats, tossed with pasta to make a sauce, or spread on some toasted bread with a little bit of burrata. When my pistou is seasoned and ready to go, I like to bag it up. That way I can freeze it where it'll keep for a couple months. Next, I'll be making some green oil, a super easy way to preserve some herbs and make an infused oil out of whatever herbs you have lying around. Today, I'll be using parsley and cilantro. I'll start by removing all the parsley from the stems and rooting through to make sure that I don't have any parsley that's too yellow or too wilted. Next, using a knife, I'll sort of scrape the parsley leaves out of the bunch. When I do this, it's actually okay to get some of the stem, as the cilantro stem has lots of flavor, whereas the parsley one mostly tastes like grass. Next, I'll pack all of my herbs tightly into a blender, and then cover them with oil. I want to use enough oil that this blends easily, but I don't want to use too much, that way I can really infuse lots of flavor and color into the oil. Next, I'll be blending my oil on the highest speed possible for 8 minutes. The reason this goes so long is it actually creates heat and cooks the herbs. Doing this helps to infuse the flavors and the color into the oil. Here's what it looks like after 1 minute of blending. Here's what it looks like at 4 minutes, halfway through. I've now blended my oil and my herbs for a total of 8 minutes. When I lift the lid off, you can see that it steams a little bit. That's because it actually got very hot in there, hot enough to cook the herbs. I'd not recommend doing this all the time or many times in a row because it could overheat your blender. In fact, I'm going to put mine in the fridge. Next, we'll be straining out any particulates left in the oil. To do this, I line a regular strainer with a coffee filter and slowly pour the oil through it. The coffee filter keeps any tiny little bit of sediment out of there, but it will take a long time to filter through. So, as soon as you've poured this through, put it in your refrigerator and let it sit overnight. Green oil makes a great garnish on top of soups and pastas, but it's also great as a dressing for a salad with just a little bit of lemon juice and salt. If you're going to make this dressing, do it right before you serve the salad, as the lemon juice will turn the green oil brown. This keeps for up to a week in the refrigerator or many months in the freezer. I like to freeze it in spare ice cube trays so I can use just a little bit at a time.